Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. American prosecutors plan to introduce evidence in a trial that sheds new light on the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey and the alleged role of the Indian government. Plus, CBC News learns a young man convicted of attacking a Punjabi singer's home on Vancouver Island was on a student visa when he was hired by a notorious Indian gang. And
I think it's great to see that the province has agreed that the public needs to have a say.
the province tells Vancouver it needs to hold a referendum in order to get rid of the park board.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. After more than 2 years of brutal war, a ceasefire deal has been reached in Gaza. Celebration and joy in the streets of Gaza as news of that peace plan spread. Israel and Hamas have both signed the agreement. It clears the way to stop the fighting within 24 hours. Swapping Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners and detainees could begin early next week. And Israeli troops will withdraw from a part of Gaza. But who will govern there remains unclear. Hamas refuses to disarm, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists there will never be a Palestinian state. As the deal was being signed, more Israeli strikes were reported. Here in Canada, there is cautious hope. Yasmin Khanea has more.
At this Palestinian restaurant, a cautious sense of hope with word of the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas.
I am so happy that the killing stopped and that the victims, the people who are being victimized in Gaza, can get some help and some aid.
And a sense of relief sweeping across Canada's Palestinian and Jewish communities.
We're all exhaling at the same time. I feel like I'm exhaling with millions of people around the world.
Maureen Lesham's cousin Romy Gonen was held hostage by Hamas for 15 months before being released in January. She hopes the remaining hostages will be freed.
The return of every single hostage is proof that the best parts of humanity still exist. You know, compassion is still there.
But with the first phase of U.S. President Donald Trump's peace deal within reach, the hope comes with trepidation. Several previous ceasefire deals have collapsed.
There's a real tendency to try to maybe downplay it or say that maybe something's still not going to work out.
The pain for diaspora communities is still raw. Tens of thousands of Palestinians have been killed in Gaza after Hamas killed about 1,200 Israelis in the October 7th attacks.
The people behind these atrocities and this a man-made humanitarian nightmare need to be held accountable.
Al-Zubaydi, like many Palestinians in Canada, still has loved ones in the region and wishes now for their safety long term.
What I wish for my family, I wish it for every Palestinian family.
For many in Canada, the last 2 years have been painful and divisive. Now there are hopes they can start to process what's happened and heal. Yasmin Khanea, CBC News, Vancouver.
U.S. prosecutors plan to introduce evidence in a trial that sheds new light on the 2023 killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey and the alleged role of the Indian government in arranging the hit. That evidence will be presented in the trial of alleged drug and firearms trafficker Nikhil Gupta, accused of plotting to kill another Sikh activist. The CBC's Evan Dyer has more on this story. Evan, what do we know about the new evidence being introduced?
Well, they're going to introduce evidence not just about that plot to kill that other Sikh activist found in New York, but it's also going to be directly about the Najar shooting. And it will include a new video of the Najar shooting, not the one that we've mostly all seen, which was closed circuit television from the parking lot at the Gurdwara in Surrey and a sort of a distant shot of what happened. This is actually video shot on the cell phone of the killers right after shooting Hardeep Singh Nijjar to show that he was dead, to show him slumped over the wheel of his truck. And then that video was sent to the handlers of those shooters as proof that the murder had been carried out. In addition, we're going to see transcripts that have already been, in some cases, released in this court filing that just detail the conversations between Gupta, this intermediary between the Indian government and the assassins. They detail his conversations with those assassins, one of whom, of course, was an undercover federal agent. And so that, of course, is why this case against him is so strong. It has video evidence, it has wiretap evidence, and, of course, the hitman that he was talking to was a undercover federal agent.
And Evan, how might this development add some more nuance to Najar's killing?
I would say more than nuance, what it really does is it sort of slams the door on the Indian government's approach, which has been to confess that the Panon plot in the United States was real, but claim that it was by a rogue agent, while continuing to deny that it was involved with the Najar killing. And essentially, India's taken that approach just because the U.S. is a more powerful country and was able to force it to admit that this was real, although they then relied on this rogue agent explanation. There was some doubt about whether the U.S. trial would need to get into the Najar killing, would need to even get into the involvement of the government of India in order to get a conviction against this drug trafficker, Nikhil Gupta. But what this court filing shows is they absolutely intend to get into both of those matters. They're going to make the argument that they can't really talk about the Panon plot without also talking about the Najar plot, and they're planning to link both directly to the government of India and to invite an expert witness who will make the argument that these two victims were on India's hit list, that they were both considered a threat to Indian security, and that the Indian government had motive and opportunity to kill them.
All right. Evan Dyer reporting from Chelsea, Quebec. Evan, thanks very much.
Thanks, Dan.
CBC News has obtained court records that give new details about that violent attack on the Vancouver Island home of Punjabi singer A.P. Dillon. They also raise questions about the operation of the Bishnoi gang here in BC. The CBC's Jason Proctor joins us with more. Jason, this attack happened last September. What more do we know about what happened?
Well, Dan, we knew it was carried out at the behest of the Bishnoi gang, and what happened here basically was that the shooter, this guy who was sentenced to 6 years just last month, named Ajit Kingra, was wearing body cam at the time. What the judge described as absolutely bizarre, because it shows, as you can see, sort of, them firing 14 bullets into this home. They lit cars on fire, absolutely terrifying for the people in this neighborhood. They then made their getaway. We're also learning that they were actually intercepted by a police officer who tried to stop them at gunpoint. They drove away from that officer, ultimately crashing a car. One of the suspects in this is believed to be in India, and the other one, Ajit Kingra, as I mentioned, has now been sentenced to 6 years in prison.
And what more have we learned about Ajit Kingra, who was, as we said, eventually arrested, convicted, and recently sentenced?
Yeah, so kind of interesting here. We didn't know prior to this sentencing that he came to Canada 4 years ago on a student visa. The idea was that he was going to go to school, work, maybe get permanent residency, and hopefully bring his family over, but he did poorly in school, struggled in the employment market, and then fell into the clutches, basically, of the Bishnoi gang, which is where he contracted to carry out this shooting. And so he will be deported now, the judge said, because of the consequences of this conviction, which he got at sort of the highest end of the scale that you can get for these kinds of offenses, because of the fact it was carried out for money at the behest of an international organization which has been declared a terrorist entity by Canada's government.
Jason Proctor, thanks very much.
Thank you.
It appears the fate of Vancouver's Park Board will be decided by voters. For 2 years, Mayor Ken Sim has been calling on the province to amend the Vancouver Charter to allow the city to dissolve the independently elected board. Now the BC government has made its decision. Justin McElroy explains what it is.
After 2 years, the province has heard what the city of Vancouver has asked for, which is to dissolve the park board, and has said they can do it, but only if they get the assent of voters. That means a referendum, which likely means if the city still wants to go ahead with it, it would happen during next year's election. More than 50% of the vote would allow them to get rid of it and cease having the park board existing as an independently operated and elected park board, which is unique among jurisdictions in North America.
Yes, it is. So what's the reaction to the province's decision?
Well, Ken Sim obviously wanted the province to give him jurisdiction to do this without a vote, but he says that he welcomes the opportunity for this, though the details as to whether a referendum will happen still to be decided. And the park board chair says that she also welcomes this decision.
When the mayor announced this in 2023, he really had no mandate to do this. He had run on a full slate of park board commissioners. He had run on fixing the park board and keeping the park board and improving parks and recreation. So for him to go and move and dissolve that with no mandate, I think it's great to see that the province has agreed that the public needs to have a say in the future of the park board.
Of course, Laura Christensen was part of Sim's ABC party before she left after this decision to try and get rid of the park board was made 2 years ago. There's been a lot of mess in the time since then, but it does mean that the voters will ultimately choose during this messy debate that has happened what the ultimate fate of Vancouver's park board will be.
All right, Justin McElroy, thanks very much. The mayor of Abbotsford says cities are pushing back against the provincial government's mandatory housing targets. As Keir Junos explains, local leaders say some of the challenges they're facing are just out of their hands.
Couldn't help but have some empathy with his remarks.
At Abbotsford's first City Council meeting after the Union of BC Municipalities convention, Councillor Simon Gibson reads a letter in part from West Vancouver Mayor Mark Sager to BC's housing minister on how the province is enforcing housing targets.
I urge the province to adopt a true partnership approach, one that respects the democratic mandate of local councils.
2 years ago, the province passed the Housing Supply Act, mandating cities build towards what Abbotsford has called ambitious housing targets by 2028. Meanwhile, West Vancouver underdelivered in its first year and is now being directed by the ministry to make changes by December. Mayor Sager insists his government has done everything it can, but says it can't change market conditions.
We've zoned sufficient property to meet every target that the province could possibly impose. The economy right now, is people know, is hurting. Developers, contractors are not building. That is not something a local government can do anything about.
Abbotsford did not meet its housing targets last year either. The city's mayor, Ross Siemens, wasn't available for an interview, but at Council Tuesday said city leaders around BC share similar concerns.
I think the provincial government is getting the message loud and clear through UBCM as well, and those of us that were there have been pushing back on those issues.
BC Housing Minister Christine Boyle says she is pleased with the work that Abbotsford is doing and that the vast majority of local governments are making changes to deliver housing quickly.
Where we're seeing resistance, we're really trying to find paths forward, and if we can't do that collaboratively, we'll keep needing to push harder as a province.
Abbotsford will have a clearer picture of its 2025 housing targets after staff present a report in November. Keir Junos, CBC News, Abbotsford.
Still with housing, the average asking rent in Vancouver is now down 8.2% in the past year. That's in a new report from rentals.ca. As Mira Baines tells us, the BC government takes some credit, but others say it's not that simple.
Average rents are falling faster in Vancouver than anywhere else in Canada, according to a new report from rentals.ca. It's an 8.2% drop year over year, and Vancouver rents are at a 41-month low. One-bedrooms are down an average of $500 a month since 2023. If we drill down to specifics and look at one-bedrooms in markets with higher rents, year-over-year drops are significant. North Vancouver, then Vancouver, Toronto, Burnaby, and Oakville round out the top 5.
I come from Germany. Like a penthouse in Germany was like maximum 3,000 euros a month. And here for a penthouse, they ask for like 8,000, 7,000.
I think rent in the city is just really high. I'm personally an artist, so I have to constantly deal with like the cost of everything, including when it comes to show prices or even putting on like, galleries, things like that.
They're still high, and there's so many people that work minimum wage jobs and can't afford to live here. So I think there's a lot more that could be done.
The province is crediting its own housing policies to reduce speculation in the real estate market, short-term rental rules, and streamlining rules for middle housing for more duplexes and townhomes.
We have been using all of these tools to rein that in, to make sure homes aren't empty, and to finally start to bring the prices down.
But this housing expert says that's not exactly the only reason.
Rents coming down is perhaps also one about policy, but it's also one about what's going on in the economy.
The opposition says the government's policies, including those on limiting short-term rentals, haven't been good.
Rental prices come down has nothing to do with positive steps this government has done. It has everything to do to the negative effect that this government has had on our economy.
The slide in rents could continue due to downward pressure on the economy. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
A hunt for a mole in the BC Conservative Party has led to its leader defending his performance, why MLA phones were searched. After this.
I think it's important to give a human face to the stories that we hear every day, the people that they affect.
And I think talking to those people is what really gives us the true sense of the impact of the stories that we're hearing.
In an unusual move, BC Conservative leader John Rustad asked his MLAs to turn over their phones so the caucus can find out who may be leaking internal information. As Katie DeRosa explains, it's the latest political saga facing BC's official opposition.
Here's the latest drama with the BC Conservatives. All Conservative MLAs were forced to hand over their phones so that caucus brass could find out who was leaking information to the media. That admission was made by John Rustad, leader of the official opposition, eventually. Reporters asked Rustad if his caucus whips are searching MLAs' phones.
No, they're not. On a regular basis, certainly they're not.
When pressed, Rustad changed his story.
There was a discussion at caucus because of some leaked information, and everybody in caucus expressed some concern about that and said, let's deal with this today and now. So there was a discussion at that point to look to see if anybody had been putting information out in the middle of our caucus meeting.
It happened during a contentious caucus meeting on Monday, where MLAs were blocked from casting a secret ballot on Rustad's leadership. Rustad initially said all MLAs expressed a willingness to hand over their phones after information from that meeting appeared on social media. When pressed, he later said it was not all MLAs who agreed, but the vast majority. Rustad insists he's not being paranoid. After the search, Rustad said there was nothing that concerned him. But ousted Conservative MLA Eleanor Sturko says it's Rustad's behavior that's a concern.
Frankly, it's shocking to see that it would have really degraded to that. I think that, you know, when a leader has that little confidence in his caucus members, and I think that more and more we're hearing that his caucus members have even less faith in him.
Sturko was kicked out of the Conservative caucus the day Rustad survived a leadership review. She says Rustad accused her of leaking information, and clearly the issue is still plaguing his caucus amid reports of internal infighting and grumbling about Rustad's leadership. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
It is a dramatic transformation, 8 years in the making. Members of a housing co-op in Vancouver are moving back into their new homes. The project claims to be the country's largest co-op redevelopment. As Michelle Gassoub shows us, the developers say they hope the city will consider more projects like theirs.
If we stand here today and we think about what it used to look like, I don't know, 10 years ago, it was very different. There was 54 existing townhouses. They were all two-story.
The Ashley Marr Housing Co-op has undergone a dramatic transformation, from just over 50 aging townhomes at the end of their life to this. Modern towers with 125 co-op homes and over 500 market rentals. The project, the result of a collaboration between private enterprise and the co-op itself.
All the hurdles that we went through, over and over again, the commitment by the co-op was still there, and the co-op really needs to put the big pat on their back because they were the ones that drove this project.
The co-op has been around since the early 80s. The members were relocated during construction, but since August, they've been moving back in, paying the same housing charges as before.
And it could have been a difficult and uncertain time for many of us, but throughout the process, we were treated with dignity and respect.
The co-op members had a say in the design all the way down to the kitchen counters. There are units from 1 to 5 bedrooms, including some that are wheelchair accessible. The market rental and co-op units share outdoor amenities like this one.
And it was just an important factor to have the two groups of people mingle together, share the same space. We think it was a very important component of creating a mixed-use community.
The developers hope the city will encourage more projects like this one, combining market rentals with co-op options to put housing in reach of more people. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
A warm, pleasant day in Tofino. Yes, look at all that sun. Had surfers and sunbathers out in droves, but there's some rain and downright frigid temperatures, if you want to call them that, on their way. Meteorologist Wesley English will be next with your provincial forecast. Stick around. Back to our top story now. The ceasefire deal reached in Gaza. Margaret Evans shows us that despite the uncertainty in Gaza and in Israel, this is a moment for hope and mixed emotions.
In Tel Aviv, in Hostages Square, they're preparing for a homecoming, believing that the last of the Israeli hostages will indeed be released, and soon. Many here credit Donald Trump, not their own government, for that. But beyond the celebrations, emotions are layered. Rachel Goldberg, Poland's son, Hirsch, was killed by his Hamas captors in Gaza, along with 5 other hostages a year ago. She's learned to temper her emotions, she says.
We are missing our beloved children who we will miss forever. And we're hopeful that maybe now we're at the beginning of where we can focus on the grief and the loss and the pain.
In Gaza, too, the emotions run deep. Celebrations on the street and the freedom to smile and cheer the emergency workers who've risked so much to save others. It's a happiness that's mixed with blood and sadness, said Akram Jarada in Deir al-Bala. We lost entire families, our children, neighbors, friends. Some are daring to hope that a ceasefire will hold and mean a permanent end to the war.
The war is over. After 2 years of hunger, destruction, and endless loss, Gaza is finally quiet.
Although Israel continued its airstrikes on targets on the Strip as final details were negotiated. More than 67,000 Palestinians have been killed since the war began, according to Gaza health officials, most of them civilians. Magdi Abu Ayada directs his anger at Hamas. Since May, they have been negotiating over the same thing, and in the end, the Israeli army got what it wants. He says they should have sacrificed themselves to end the war. Now, so many Gazans are left trying to imagine their own homecomings, back to places that no longer exist. The Israeli army shelling Gaza's coastal road at one point, apparently to stop people from trying to head north.
Margaret Evans reporting. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump is being praised for the Israel-Hamas deal. But there's also recognition of how fragile the ceasefire is as he plans a trip to the region. Katie Nicholson has that part of the story.
Countries stepping up and putting up a lot.
At a morning cabinet meeting, praise for the U.S. president from his Secretary of State.
One day, perhaps the entire story will be told about the events of yesterday, but suffice it to say, it's not an exaggeration that none of it would have been possible without the President of the United States being involved.
Donald Trump, optimistic.
I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East.
Democrats voiced cautious support.
It's a very, very positive step in the right direction. We're all hopeful that this agreement will be finalized.
Including former President Barack Obama, who posted on X, "We should all be encouraged and relieved that an end to the conflict is within sight." The deal? Brokered after intense meetings with Arab and Muslim countries and a White House visit with the Israeli Prime Minister. Through it all, Donald Trump taking a lead role.
The question is, will Donald Trump, having now proclaimed himself the peace president, having, I think, reasonably claimed credit for this agreement, will he now be personally invested in making sure it continues now that it's very much connected to his own legacy?
Not just his legacy on the line, but perhaps a Nobel Peace Prize, which Trump has made no secret of coveting. An Israeli farmer even plowed an endorsement into this field. Even his critics say if the deal succeeds, it may happen.
He desperately wants that Nobel Peace Prize. It won't happen tomorrow for a lot of reasons, but if this process continues, he may have a better argument next year. My only point here is We've been at this stage several times before, including, as I said, as recently as January, and the ceasefires have broken down.
But so far, this deal holding enough for the U.S. president to plan a trip to the region, just as the hostages are due to be released and as aid is expected to flow into Gaza. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
A French man has been sentenced to an extra year in jail for challenging his conviction for the rape of Gisèle Pellico. The 72-year-old woman was drugged unconscious by her husband, who then invited dozens of men to rape her. 51 men were handed jail terms last December, found guilty of rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. But Houssamatin Doan was the only one to appeal his 9-year jail sentence. The prosecutors said Doan was unwilling to take responsibility for his actions. Doan had denied that he intended to rape Pellico and argued he was deceived. His sentence has now been raised to 10 years. An explosion left its indelible mark on Metro Vancouver 50 years ago. Coming up, we're going to chat with the son of a survivor about his dad's life, work, and lessons learned. You will want to see this.
The weather update is brought to you by BC Cancer Foundation. Give today to bring more progress and possibilities to patients and their families. Your donation changes everything.
Stars is taking the night off, so meteorologist Wesla English joins us from the Okanagan with the BC-wide forecast as we inch closer to Thanksgiving Day long weekend. What do we get, Wesla?
Well, we're going to have to get a little bit cozy this weekend.
Perfect
we are
timing.
going to see temperatures. Yes, perfect timing. We are going to see temperatures cool down a little bit over the next couple of days. We have an upper low that is circulating just off the BC coast, and that low is going to gradually push inland. As a result, we are also going to see more rain moving to many areas across the south coast tomorrow. Let's take a look at the almanac. Daytime highs peaked at 16 degrees at YVR. Our seasonal high is 14 currently, and we are losing over 3.5 minutes of daylight per day at this time of year. Here's a look at the satellite and radar. So as mentioned, the circulation around the low was the reason why many parts of the south coast started off the day with clouds and showers. Here's a look at the precipitation forecast. So over the next 24 hours, that low will push inland and we will see rain redeveloping for the south coast again tomorrow and also parts of the BC southern interior. Tonight, down to -1 in Prince George. It will be 0 in Williams Lake, 3 degrees for a low in Golden. For the northern half of the province, you will stay mostly dry with the areas seeing sunshine, low teens in the afternoon for the central interior, 17 degrees for a high in Golden and 16 degrees in Fort St. John. For the southern half of the province, with that upper low pushing inland, we can expect to see rain developing for the island and the lower mainland, Revelstoke and Crown Brook. You're a little bit too far east to see that low influence you in any way, but for us here in the Okanagan Valley, we will see increasing cloud. Look at the pumpkin patch. Increasing cloud tomorrow for the Okanagan Valley. We will see those evening showers developing Friday night, and then those showers will increase to rain on Saturday. We'll see those showers lingering Sunday, but then on Monday, we'll be back to much drier and brighter weather. Same with the south coast. Metro Vancouver, you too will see a mix of sun and cloud by Thanksgiving Monday and into Tuesday, but over the next few days, morning showers will increase to rain by Friday afternoon. Dan, you're going to have to keep those umbrellas handy for Saturday and Sunday, and a little bit cooler on Sunday as well. Fall jacket might turn into your winter jacket by the weekend.
Very good advice. Thank you, Wesla. This month marks the 50th anniversary of a tragic local event. A fire at North Vancouver's Burrard terminals ignited a massive explosion, leaving an indelible mark on the community and the workers who survived it. It happened around 10 a.m. on October 3rd, 1975. A worker was taking a grain sample inside the workhouse when a conveyor belt caught fire. The dust in the air was like TNT, sending 2 fiery explosions ripping through those buildings. 5 people were killed that day, more than a dozen others seriously burned. Still, so many grateful families had their loved ones come home that day. The father of the Kalange family had just started at the terminal. He received burns to more than 50% of his body. But Mike Kalange Sr. carried on working as a first aid attendant there for decades. He died in 2014. His son, Mike Kalange Jr., who is also Burnaby RCMP's media liaison officer, joins us. Mike, your father, it sounds like resilient was in his bones. Tell us a bit about your dad.
Oh, my dad, he was a good-looking guy. And what he lacked in looks, he had in charisma. Yeah. When you met Mike Kalange Sr., you remembered him. He would light up a room. He knew how to talk to people. He just everyone watching this that ever met my dad or heard of him will have a smile on their face right now, because he was known across the waterfront. He was also the vice president of the Grain Workers Union, which was another part of his family. He just loved everyone there, and he was known in the soccer community. He grew up in East Vancouver when it was really East Vancouver, and he's just loved by everybody, and he loved most of them back.
Yeah. And clearly deep roots in the community of the 2 families, as you said. So if we can, on October 3rd, your mother, who was pregnant with twins, receives the news that her husband, your dad, is in hospital. What happened next?
Yeah, so my mom was already in the hospital. She was due on October 12th, which would have actually been my dad's 30th birthday.
Yeah.
And she was in there with some complications, and they wouldn't let her look out the north window at at Vancouver General Hospital because she would obviously see the smoke. So they sat her down. They managed to bring my dad directly to Vancouver General, knowing that my mom was there. And for the next couple of days, they just wanted to get us two boys out because they say stress is the worst thing for babies. They got us out, and for the next several weeks, my mom was on the north side of 12th Avenue. My dad was on the south side in the burn ward, and they would wheel my mom over there to see how he's doing, and we weren't allowed in there. So my mom and my granny actually would bring the two of us to 13th Avenue, and my dad would look out the window just to see us there. And I think between that and my two, at the time, 2.5-year-old sister, I think that's what got him through.
Yeah. Well, amazing to have that connection. And at the time to know that was clearly important, and we see some of these pictures, the staff helping, that must have been a real lift.
Absolutely. We have a picture of all the nurses, the head nurse holding my brother and I. Yeah. We actually have that actual different, larger version of that picture with my dad's fingerprints are still on there because he was still in the bird ward, so his actual prints are on there. And that head nurse, her husband was my dad's doctor till the day he died.
You mentioned stress. We are learning more and perhaps becoming more accepting about the effects of traumatic events, whether we call it PTSD or another form. How did his experience shape your life, if I can ask? First, as a son growing up, and you're a dad now.
It's kind of hard to explain. I would have liked to have known my dad before the incident. He was the most amazing dad to begin with. But I know now, being in the industry that I'm in, I recognize the PTSD that he had. He was just tough. In the 70s, 80s, 90s, there's no way a man's going to go talk to another person about how they feel. And we're getting better now. In my outfit, we encourage people to talk. It can always get better, right? And I guess if there's any message I would say is, talk to someone, if it's a psychologist, a friend, anyone. But yeah, it's getting better. How it's affected me, I talk to my kids about everything. So if I'm having a bad day, they know, and I tell them why, right? So I'm trying to live up to the father that he was, and it really continues to be.
And the connection, if I can ask, the connection you have with your kids, how is that being built with what you're learning from your dad's experience and your career and with them now understanding and you being so open with them?
My dad lived with humility, so I always tell people that I learned a lot, until I hit a certain age. Almost everything I know I learned from my dad. Some of it was from what he said. Some of it was from just watching him, and sometimes it was his mistakes. But we would talk about them. And so I try not to, we're all going to make mistakes, right? And, age appropriate, I try and explain just some of the feelings I have, coming home, and, something we didn't really have growing up. And I don't think a lot of people did through the 70s and 80s and 90s. In fact, since the third, and talking to a lot of people that didn't know my family history, a lot of people are coming forward and saying, my dad went through this, or my dad was in the war, and, I remember this. And, it's great that it's getting better, but I feel like it can always get even better.
I think this interview is going to help. Mike Kalange, Burnaby RCMP's Media Liaison Officer, thank you for sharing your dad's story and your story with us. Much appreciated.
Great. Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
Awesome. Just say to all you grain workers out there, all you longshoremen, everyone in between, just be safe. We know that the grain dust hasn't gotten less lethal, and there's so much more to be worried about. So just get home to your families at the end of the day.
Mike Kalange, thank you. A cultural hub for the local West African community was wiped out by a fire at the start of the year. After the break, though, how the owner and the community banded together to rebuild.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and this is your CBC Inbox.
On October 23rd, join CBC's Dan Burritt at the alumni UBC webinar True North, What's Next for Canada-US Relations. Join the conversation and discover what's next for the nation on a global stage. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC's e-newsletter today at cbc.ca/Vancouver Inbox.
We have an update for you on the Canada Post strike. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers says tonight it is going to move from a nationwide strike to rotating job action. The union says this means mail and parcel services will begin to get back on track, even as workers continue to call for an updated collective agreement. The union's nationwide strike has been going on since September 25th. Ottawa has directed Canada Post to end home delivery and look to shut down many rural post offices, saying the Crown Corporation is on track to lose more than $1 billion this year alone. After a fire destroyed her BC restaurant, Nigerian-Canadian matriarch, she's known as Mummy Alebi, faced the daunting task of starting over. Alebi African cuisine was a home away from home for Metro Vancouver's West African diaspora. Here's the story of how she rebuilt.
Food brings people together. That was my thing, to bring everyone together. My name is Elizabeth Alero Ayomagbeni Balugo. I am a CEO of Alebi African Cuisine since 2014. I was born in Nigeria. I came to Canada about 33 years ago. My passion wasn't for food, but I wanted something to show my culture, to show who I am. Alebi means Alero. In Shakiri, the first daughter, I gave him Alero. Alero means a blessing. So when I was growing up, my best friends for over 45 years, they called me Alebi. So it's a nickname that they thought it was unique and it suits me. So that's why they call me Alebi. I really enjoy cooking. For me, I love cooking. That wasn't my main thing when I came together. I wanted to be a lawyer. When I came and I said, you know what? There's so many lawyers. Let me look for something that nobody has. You have to create your own path. Somebody said to me, you're looking for Nigerian food. You must look for Alebi. Everyone that comes in here goes out with a smile. And that's what I like to do. When you come in here, no matter how grouchy, how sad you are, you must eat this place with a smile. I love it because it's a family business. It's not just me, myself, and I. It's a family business. My children love it. My grandchildren love it. Are you looking for the clown? She's a clown. Oh, yeah. The clown of the family. So my children and my grandchildren, if you see the way we interact, you think we are sisters. People, oh, is that your sister? You say, that's my mom. It's like, no, that's not your mom. Mom don't talk to their children like that. But you have to have a relationship with your children. And it's very important.
I can tell you she's a fought for good in our community, contributing meaningfully, just like, several people have testified as to how she has positively impacted our life or their lives.
Hey, when did you get married?
2016.
Oh, I was at the wedding.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so I'm not there. So we attend the same church.
I'm always grateful I met you, Ami. And since I came to Canada, you've been a blessing to me. Thank you.
More or less like my second mother in Canada. That's the only mother I have in Canada.
My place is not just come to eat. It's not just selling food. It's a place of counseling. I talk to people. I advise them. I tell them what to do, especially immigrants. So I try to inculcate food with advice. I got one young man I will never forget. He came to meet me. He said, Mom, do you remember me? Honestly, I don't. He said, thank you for the advice. He said, today I'm a lawyer. He brought his wife. He said, we just got married. Everything you told me, I never forgot it. Thank you. You know, when you've built something for so long, then all of a sudden, everything just shuts down. There's no word to describe that. I don't think I can ever describe that day. January 1st, 2025, 1:30 a.m., one of my customers texted me and said, oh, Madam Alebi, check your restaurant, something is going on. And I read the message and I screamed. I said, no, Alebi is on fire. I just got up and I ran out. All my family, everybody ran out with me. You saw the ambulance, the fire truck, the police department, everything was blocked. It was like a dream. It's like everything I built for 10 years just went down like that. I didn't know what to say. I was numb. I couldn't cry. I couldn't scream. I couldn't do nothing. Everything has gone. All I said was, Lord, I thank you for the opportunity you gave me in this place for the good 10 years. I was just praising God. I didn't know what to do. My granddaughter, they came and said, Grandma, we can do GoFundMe. So we sat down and she did a GoFundMe, which I was really surprised. So people really cared for me. They were calling me and said, oh no, what Elizabeth? What can we do? How can we help? We want to contribute. You're such a good person. We want your food. We want you to go back, open back. But I was just looking at them. I don't think I want to do this again because it was so painful at that time. But when I saw the response of people, I was really shocked. Like, wow. That's where I met the real estate lady, Zane. After about a month, customers were asking me, can we order food from home? We want to eat. I said, there's other restaurants. They said, no, we want to order your food. We know the other restaurant. We want to order your food. That gave me courage. And I said, well, maybe I should start looking somewhere for another space. Before I knew it, Zane called me. He said, Elizabeth, you're looking for a restaurant? She took me to a few places. When she brought me here, she said, the guy's trying to sell. I said, really? He said, yeah, it's on the market now. I said, Lord, is this the place? Is this where you want me to be?
That night, we just finished New Year's Eve. We pray it's going to be a year of greatness, and then the next day you had a call that in the middle of the night, well, thank God my phone is always on.
Yes.
And I remember a word came to me right then, that the light, came in my language. That is that phrase in my language that says, Ile Obatujo Ewa Loma Boko. The king's palace that got burnt, the next building will be more glorious than the one that got burnt. And I told her, okay, God has spoken now. Even though this one has gone, burned down, but God has promised that the one that will come next will be more glorious and more beautiful. And here we are today, very beautiful place.
Less than 2 months, I opened this place, this restaurant in Delta, March 1st, 2025. And it's been a blessing since I've been here. God gave me my joy back, and I'll be forever grateful. Legacy is very important to me because when you do something, you want to share with your children's children. They may accept it or not. It's up to them. But give them the opportunity. Holiday is a brand. Holiday is a name now. And it's a good name. And I'm proud of it. There's been ups and downs, but I didn't let that bother me. I keep going.
Thank you for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, our free app, as well as on YouTube and our website, cbc.ca/BC. We will have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. Janella Hamilton will be your host here tomorrow night. So good night, and to those of you celebrating this weekend, happy Thanksgiving.